بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As been mentioned, this hadith is one of those hadith of the Prophet Sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that come from his Jawami' al-Kalam, the ability he had to say a few words that entailed a lot of benefit, a lot of ahkam, a lot of adab, a lot of wisdoms, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a hadith that the ulama of al-hadith took care to write about this hadith specifically after gathering it in their books, like in the Dawaween of Sahih al-Imam al-Bukhari and other than that. So it's a hadith that has been put out there and serviced all by itself. Ufrida bihi, a book or books were written just on this hadith because of the many benefits that come from the hadith. There are multiple narrations that support one another, and that's a very important point before even discussing the hadith, that the narration in the Bukhari doesn't contain all of what's been said about the hadith. So the Muslim is an individual who tries to take his deen from its complete form. So there are multiple collections of the hadith. Simply put, the companion Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, who was one of the 6 companions who narrated the majority of the hadith. He said that the Nabi said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there was a man from Bani Israel who murdered 99 people, and then he began to want to make tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jal. So he asked the community and the people from the community, from the A'wam, can he make tawbah? They directed him to an abid, a person who was a monk. He wasn't a bad individual, just didn't have knowledge, but he was an abid. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the virtues of the scholar over the abid is like the virtues of me over the least one from amongst you. So this is the individual who they were asking, or who he went to, an abid, a zahid. He's not bad. The abid is the individual who he does his adhkar. He tries to keep up with his sunan. He's an abid. He's doing things. He's not just someone who's just taking it easy. He's doing extra. So you have to keep that in the context of that hadith. Fadl al-abid, al-alam al-abid, ka-fadli ala adnakum. The virtues of the one who is a scholar over the monk, the abid. The abid has benefit. He's not just a regular person. He's doing more than the normal person. So they told him, ask him. He said, I murdered 99 people. Can I make tawbah? And the abid, who didn't have knowledge, said, you can't make tawbah because the sin that you committed, it's a major sin. 99 people. Normal people don't do that. You can't make tawbah. When he closed the door of tawbah in the man's face, he killed him, making him the 100th person that he murdered. So in the community, we have people who are doing all kinds of mistakes, but we don't have anyone from amongst us who is out there murdering 100 people, which gives you an idea and an indication of how things became with Bani Israel, and that someone was allowed to exist amongst them who murdered 100 people. At some point, the community has to stop people from doing things like that. The Muslim community is the community who, when things happen, as a community, as individuals, to the best of our ability, we have to make al-amr bil-ma'ruf and al-nahy al-munkar according to our ability and according to knowledge. So this point of what happened should be considered, that the man was allowed to exist and he murdered 100 people from the community. And then he wanted to make Tawbah. And he asked the same people from the Awam, I murdered 100 people. Is it permissible for me now? Can I make Tawbah? They said, ask the one who has knowledge. Ask the scholar. He's the scholar. Ask him. He told the scholar the situation. The scholar said to him, and what will come between you and Tawbah? What's going to stop you from making Tawbah to Allah? You killed 100 people. But Tawbah is not enough. If you're sincere about making your Tawbah, then there's some things that you have to do. It's not enough just to feel bad about it, although that is a prerequisite in the steps of making Tawbah. The Prophet mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and nadab Tawbah. The feeling of remorse that a person feels in and of itself is Tawbah, but it's not enough. He told the man, if you really want to make Tawbah, then you have to leave this area where you committed all of those sins. You murdered 100 people. You're in an environment that is not conducive to you being religious. It's a toxic environment. So if you're serious about doing better, then leave that environment and go over there to this village of people who are practicing the religion. They'll help you. So he went and he left based upon his niyat. On his way, he died by the qadr of Allah. When he died, the angels of rahmah came and the angels of punishment came, both wanting to claim his body. The angels of rahmah said, this man never ever did anything good in his life and he murdered 100 people. We have more right to take him. The angels of the adhab said, he murdered 100 people, he never did anything good. The angels of rahmah told them, yeah, he did that, but he made Tawbah to Allah. And his niyyah was to make hijrah and to get away from that environment. And he was overtaken by death on his way. And they argued. Allah Azza wa Jal, in another narration other than Sahih Bukhari, sent another angel in the form of a man. So when we say that we believe in the 6 arkan of al-iman billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rasulihi wa yawm al-akhir wal qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi, when we say we believe in that, it's not just enough to be able to say the 6 in order, which many people can't do today, and it's from the basics of our religion. The 6 arkan of al-iman, we should know them forward and backwards and forward. But many of us, we don't know them like that. Not to mention, and this is the point, al-iman in the malaika, it means a lot. And part of what we believe about those malaika is what this hadith is saying. And that is, Allah Azza wa Jalla has given the malaika to make what is known as a tashakkul. The malaika, they can take on the form of human beings as it happened in this hadith. So the angels of punishment and the angels of mercy were arguing. Allah sent a third angel in the form of a human being to judge between them. And that angel said, if the man is closer to the city where he was going, then the angels of rahmah have more right over him because of his niyat. And he was going, although he didn't do what he wanted to do, innamal a'malu bin niyat. Your deeds are judged based upon the niyat, the intent behind it. The other man, he said, if he is closer to where he was coming from and he made those crimes and sins, then the angels of punishment have more right to him. The rahmah of Allah Azza wa Jal, he was closer to the land that he was going to, so Allah forgave him. That's the hadith on the table today. And although, as I mentioned, this hadith is a very famous hadith, you're going to find the internet saturated with this hadith and many explanations of the hadith. It's just not one of those stories. It's one of those hadith that show no Muslim should give up hope and he should never despair from the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. We have the statement of Allah Ta'ala in the Qur'an, وَمَنْ يَقْنَتُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّهِ إِلَّا الضَّالُّونَ. No one makes and gives up despair and having hope in Allah's mercy except those people who are astray. The great scholar of Islam, Imam al-Dhahabi, he has his book, the book of the major sins, Kitabul Kaba'ir. He puts this as one of the major sins, and he brings this hadith as an example of that. What's the major sin? An individual giving up hope and despair of Allah Azza wa Jalla's mercy. There's nobody here, not a single person here, who has murdered 100 people. That's the overall meaning of this hadith. If Allah Azza wa Jalla can and has forgiven an individual who murdered 100 people, then clearly he can forgive the individual who he does other sins. They may be major, but still Allah will forgive you. Like, for an example, the one who curses Allah, the one who curses the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, those are major sins. People who abandon prayer for some time, the person who broke his fast in the blessed month of Ramadan, the individual who is consistently constant, disrespectful to his parents, he drank khamr, he was an individual who did whatever crime he did, committed zina, all of those are major sins. All of those are major sins. And for all of them, the individual can get punished. But the story behind this and the moral behind the hadith, the lesson behind the hadith is no one here committed 100 murders. No one, inshallah. So if Allah Azza wa Jalla can forgive this individual, clearly he can forgive the one who didn't do this. As you read about the religion of Islam, especially about this religion, about this particular sin of murder, when the Prophet told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to avoid the 7 major sins, the sab'a al-mubiqat, those 7 sins that will destroy you, one of them he mentioned was murdering a nafs that did not deserve to be getting murdered. There is an issue about the sin of murdering a believer, and that there is no tawbah for the one who murders the believer. And this is a very famous issue in the fiqh and the religion of al-Islam. Just like the issues of saying Ameen and Raf'ul Yadayn and reading behind the Imam, this is one of those issues where a lot of people kind of get the situation wrong, but it's important that we understand this issue, especially with this hadith that we're dealing with on the table. There are those people from the ulama of Islam that are of the opinion, if you were to murder a believing person intentionally, there's no tawbah for that. It's the great sin to be responsible for murdering a believer. Murder by itself is a great sin, but murdering a believer, some of those scholars are of the opinion, there is no tawbah for you. And from them, Abdullah ibn Abbas. And that's because of the statement of Allah Ta'ala, وَمَنْ يَقْتُلْ مُؤْمِنًا مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمْ خَالِدًا فِيهَا وَغَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَعَنَهُ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ عَذَابًا عَظِيمًا. That's an ayat of the Qur'an. And whoever intentionally murders a believer, then he will be in the hellfire forever. And he will never come out of the hellfire. And Allah will be angry with him. And Allah will curse him. And Allah has prepared for him a severe punishment. So this ayah describes 5 different punishments for the one who kills the believer. And one of those punishments is he will be in the hellfire forever. And he'll never come out of that hellfire. Killing the believer is a major sin. The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, la hawan dunya, la zawal dunya, ahwanu ala Allahi min qatl al-mu'min bighayri haqq. For the whole dunya to go away and to disappear. Everything in the dunya. The Kaaba, Mecca, Medina, Bayt al-Maqdis, for all of the dunya to go away is easier with Allah. It is lighter with Allah than for a believer to be killed unjustly. So because of these hadith, there are those scholars who have the opinion, and they will give you the fatwa, if someone murders someone, then he won't be forgiven. He can't be forgiven. There is a hadith, before we move on, Ikhwani, that says Allah will not forgive the tawbah except the tawbah of a person who kills someone, a believer. That is not the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is this hadith of the 100 people who were murdered by this man. It was Abdullah ibn Abbas who said, Allah will not forgive or accept the tawbah of a person who murders a believer. I hope you guys get that point. Abdullah ibn Abbas, because of that ayat, he said that Allah will not forgive the individual who murders a believer. But we have this hadith and we have other hadith that show that's not the case. The ayats of the Qur'an. Allah Ta'ala has mentioned that anyone who dies and he doesn't make shirk with Allah, Allah will forgive him. Allah Ta'ala has mentioned in the Qur'an, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. So those ayahs clearly indicate and clearly prove Allah forgives any and every sin a person dies upon, as long as it's not shirk. If a person dies upon shirk, then Allah Azza wa Jalla will not forgive him. From the benefits of the hadith is the issue of the importance of the niyat. And that in the religion of Islam, the niyat of a person is ablagu min af'alihi. His niyat speaks louder than his actions. A person will be rewarded comparable to his niyat and according to his niyat. So as the Prophet said, the one who tries to murder the believer, when they come together, two Muslims come together, carrying their swords, each intending to kill one another, he said the murderer and the murdered, both of them will be in the hellfire. The companions say, Ya Rasulullah, we understand how the one who murdered his brother is in the hellfire, but why is the one who was murdered, why is he in the hellfire? He said, because when they came together with their swords, both of them had the niyyah of murdering the other one. So it's imperative about developing and cultivating and taking care of a person's niyyah. This man made tawbah after murdering 100 people on his way to leave the place and the environment of those evil sins and crimes and actions. And as a result of that, Allah Azza wa Jalla accepted from him. And we have an assortment of a hadith and ayat of that nature. This hadith, Ikhwani, is a very important hadith, especially for our day during this time where we find when it comes to dawah and people giving dawah, there's a lot of contention and a lot of fighting. This is really important. This hadith shows the importance of reading the room, being able to read the room and giving dawah to Allah, and having enough hikmah and experience and common sense as it relates to how you're going to react and deal with things. The scholar was approached by a man who had no qualms with killing people. He already killed 100 people. By the time he gets to the scholar has to be able to realize this man has no problem with killing you. So even if you believe that he didn't have an opportunity or a chance to make tawbah, you should save your life and not tell him you don't have a chance for tawbah, because the man will kill you. It's possible for you in the deen to use your brain and to save your life. You don't have to answer. And it's also possible for you in that situation to not even tell the truth, because you have the right to live your life. The man is a murderer. So it's important for us to know how to read the room. Recently, with the earthquake that happened in Morocco, there is a video that has gone viral, and it came to me on a number of WhatsApp groups that I was on. I was shocked to see that people were sending it out in support of the message. And the message of that video is similar to this hadith right here. It's a connection. There was a Sheikh Al-Fadl, inshallah, in Morocco, giving his lecture when the earthquake started. And then the lights went off, and you could hear him saying, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And you could hear the people started to panic. When the lights came on, you could see some people standing up, trying to find out which room they're going to run, which door they're going to run out of. And he started making inkar on them, asking them, Aina tadhhabun, where you going? That's what's going to be asked of people Yawmul Qiyamah when they start running around looking for safety and sanctuary. So it be said to them, Aina tadhabun. He said that to the people like in an inkar, like, where you going? And he told them, sit down. May Allah bless you. You're in the blessed masjid. And then he started talking about the virtues of the masjid and how if you die in the masjid, this is a good thing. And how the angels come and they gather in the masjid with the people in the masjid. He started talking about those things, that the believer is going to be a shaheed if the wall falls on him. And it was sent to the WhatsApp group, and people were putting hearts on it and putting dua and putting their fingers up on it. And it's similar to the video I saw previously. They looked like they was from Chechnya, and they were an army. And you could hear the guns and the bullets started shooting when they were praying. Some of them got out of line, and some of them stayed in line. And for the ones who stayed in line, people were putting hearts in support of that. These kinds of understanding of the deen is not correct. Because if the wall is going to fall down, the natural inclination is for everybody to get up and to get out and not to continue to pray. So if I'm the imam and I'm encouraging you, hey, everybody sit down, and there's an earthquake and the building can fall on us, and I'm encouraging you to stay here, this is a way that I can be responsible for killing 100 people because of my fiqh. When we hear this hadith, we only think about the man going around murdering people with a knife or a gun. No, it's not only that. It's also giving a fatwa and giving some kalam that's responsible for the death of people. If an individual happened to drown, then he's a martyr. If he happened to have the building fall on him, he's a martyr, inshallah. But we don't encourage that. As a matter of fact, not to want to live, if you are ever around someone who says, I'm not scared of anyone, and he has a desire, nothing makes him afraid, anybody who wants to die, something is wrong. He's against the fitrah. Something is wrong. Because the way Allah Azza wa Jalla has created everybody is with the desire to live, to see another day. He put that in us. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Qur'an and a hadith of it, this is the fitrah of Bani Adam. So the point here is, when that sheikh, who I believe he meant good, he was trying to remind the people of the virtue, you got to read the room. This is not the time to give those ahadith. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالِ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. The last thing that you're doing will determine where you go Yawm al-Qiyamah. So if in your masjid, that's the last thing you're doing, it's good, you go to Jannah. No, that hadith is not encouraging us to sit down and to have sakina in the face of us possibly losing our lives. So with the whole issue, ikhwani, of this hadith, the image that we get about a man going around killing 100 people like it happened here, that's part of the understanding of the hadith. But part of the understanding as well as this, another part of the understanding, as I mentioned, is if you give the fatwa or the ruling, or you talk about something that as a result of that, people lose their lives, you are responsible for that issue. Lastly, we want to mention, ikhwani, the hadith clearly shows the importance of the environment. As the environment of the person is, so is the Islam of that individual. We're only going to practice the religion as well as the environments that we live in, that we come from, and that we occupy. One of the weird things, strangest things we find today is some of the people who don't read the room when it comes to dawah, and we want to talk about the leaders of the Muslims only. The Muslims are going to get the leaders who are a reflection of the Muslims. So to focus all of our attention on the leaders, that doesn't even make sense. Because if we had leaders like Umar ibn al-Khattab to be the leader of the Muslims, then the level of Islam for Umar and the way he'll deal with us will be in a way that we wouldn't like. So what we should do is focus on ourselves, focus on the community, and focus on everybody equally. Don't just focus on the leaders of the Muslims. As a matter of fact, that's a trick of a shaitan, for us to think that the environments that we're living in is going to produce people that exist on the level of Umar ibn al-Khattab. If you go to the average Muslim madrasa, the school in madrasa, when it's time to teach the kids in the madrasa, the teacher is spending most of the time trying to get the kids to calm down before he can even talk, because the madrasa is more of a place for them to babysit than it is a place to teach, because that teaching is not being done in the homes. So we should focus on our own selves. We are a reflection of our environments, and our environments are a reflection of us.